All right. Hey, folks.
Hey,
How's it going? My name is Matt,
Daniel.
and we are from eMarketed. And today we're going live on YouTube with, we're going to do a WordPress walkthrough. So this is going to be a multi-part series. Today what are we going to cover today, Daniel?
We're going to cover getting a domain connected to hosting, um, getting the hosting set up, getting WordPress set up, um, and yeah, just basically getting ready to uh, start building on a website,
Yep.
on a
So
WordPress
yeah,
website.
I feel like if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've heard of WordPress, but yeah, WordPress is one of the most popular CMS, content management solutions or software, content management software out there. And yeah, it allows you to kind of manage all the content on your website. You can have e-commerce on the website, you can blog, and it just gives you really a lot of functionality. And there's a bunch of different plugins for analytics and marketing, and it's just gives you, it's very, very robust. So we've been working with WordPress sites for 25 years, or pretty much.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if
I
WordPress
mean,
goes back 25 years, but we've been working on
no, there
WordPress
were
for,
things before WordPress for sure.
yeah.
The last 10 to 12 years, I feel like WordPress has really, you know, blown up. So where the vast majority of the websites in the world are on WordPress these days. But yeah, before that, there were other CMSs that were popular and trending. Um, yeah, so it's one of the things that you can one of the CMSs that you can choose from if you're going to uh, have a website. There are lots of other things. There are hosted solutions like Square or Squarespace, right? And Wix are just two of the kind of popular ones that people go to now, or businesses go to, because it's very easy to. They give you certain templates, and you add your content, and you've got a website like very quickly. With WordPress, a lot of people I feel like are or it's pretty common for people to be overwhelmed. If you were trying to build a website, um, knowing only a little bit about WordPress could be a bit overwhelming, but it's not really all that much more complicated um, than setting up a website on something like Wix uh, or Squarespace. It doesn't have to be. It's slightly more, but not terribly more. Plus, you have a lot of flexibility at the end of the day, which is
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, I think a
Um,
lot of people get intimidated. I mean, and we'll see it, I believe, in this first video. But you see the WordPress backend, and it's just, there's so many features, and it's, if it's your first time, I can see how users just kind of get lost and like, whoa, And so yeah, Squarespace, which we've built some sites on before, super easy, intuitive, and but yeah, less features, less control of things. So with Squarespace and Wix, those solutions are powered by those companies. So with WordPress, you can actually take control. You can have it on your own server. WordPress also has cloud hosting as well. But for this walkthrough, we're setting up a WordPress site on our server, so we have control of that. And yeah, that gives you more flexibility. You can get into kind of parts where Squarespace and Wix will not let you access certain parts of the code or the server. So yeah, it gives you just, I guess, more flexibility.
totally. Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, let's dive into the process. So we have
Cool.
we're going to be setting up a domain for a website, actually, for my wife, who's a musician, singer songwriter, and she wants to have her own website, not for her music, but more for her writing. She's a creative writer, and so yeah, so the first thing or the first step of the process is going to Namecheap, which is a domain provider. It's one that we use today. It's cheaper than GoDaddy. We like it. Super easy to use. But yeah, so the domain was registered just a few days ago on Namecheap. I believe it was like $10 for the year.
Yeah. And does Namecheap jack it up after the first year like other providers, or does it stay like $10 a year?
They do a little bit, yeah. Actually, I think the first year was like eight or
Okay.
$9. But yeah, the next, it does go up slightly, but it's not like, with GoDaddy they get you in for a cheap
I think
price,
they
and then the next,
double. I think
yeah, it's at
GoDaddy
least
doubles.
double. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
So
like
just
9.99, and then next, all of a sudden, it's 19.99
right,
the next time you get billed. Yeah.
right. And yeah, if you have any add-ons with GoDaddy, like even SSL for security for your website, they charge on that. So another advantage with the setup that we're going with, we don't have to pay for SSL because it's on our server. So
Yeah. Yeah, I would just jump right in, I guess.
yeah,
And
let's do it.
yeah, I mean, this whole idea came about because this is something that we're constantly doing, and I just thought it would be fun to kind of walk through the process because it's, we've been doing it for years, um, and yeah, we just never really talked about it. It's just something that we do.
Yeah,
And so like all the little things that go into it are, uh, yeah, I find it kind of interesting. Um, so
yeah,
cool.
most
So we have, Matt mentioned that we have hosting. This is the hosting provider that we use. If you were going to set up a website, you could do shared hosting or VPS, or cloud. There's a lot of different options, or specifically WordPress. What we're going to be looking at today is a VPS, or a virtual private server. And so that, again, it might sound intimidating or whatever, but they give you an interface to interact with the server with. That's not all that complicated. There are a lot of options in there, but it's fairly straightforward if you know the few little things that you're looking for in there.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, real quick too on Known Hosts.
mhm.
We've been using them for at least 10 years, maybe more. But yeah, super solid provider. There are other ones out there that are bigger, like for instance GoDaddy, and those, the bigger the providers are, the more open to attacks they are, just because they have so many sites out there. And so Known Host is a smaller provider, but super secure, and multi locations all over the world as far as for data centers. And I guess the best part is that we love their support, very responsive. Usually we get response within minutes. We had a site a week or so ago where a site was down, and it was with another company. We won't mention the company's name, but the site was down, and we responded to, filled out a support inquiry. And just how long did it take, Daniel, the first time?
It was 24 hours to get a response, and then when the response came back, it wasn't anything. It required another response, and so it was actually 48 hours by the time we got to a place where anything could be done. And even
Yep.
after that, it went to requiring chat, which was I think we had to wait like an hour to get a agent on chat. So it was
Yeah,
definitely a pain.
yeah. I mean, that's unacceptable in web hosting world. I mean, there are a lot of good providers out there, and
Hmm.
anyways, we love Known Host. We have never experienced that. If we have problems, we're talking to a live person in minutes.
Yep.
So super reliable.
Cool. So if you were to sign up for like a VPS service or something, immediately after you buy it, they're going to give you access to the server. And the for this type of server, there's a software called WHM, which is like the interface that you can configure and manage the server and the various accounts on the server. Um, a web server can have one website on it. It can have 1,000 websites on it. It really depends on your needs. Obviously, if you have 1,000 websites, you're probably going to need a little bit more like
Computing power.
hardware add-ons to support that. But it can definitely be done. And with a provider like your hosting provider, like in this example, Known Host, you would let them know, hey, I'm going to add 30 websites, so I need to increase my uh, memory or bandwidth, or whatever it is that needs to be increased. You can let them know, and then they take care of it. So you don't actually have to go to the store and buy hardware. You just let them know and add it onto your package, and go from there. So this is the WHM interface. So really the only thing that we'll need this for today is to set up an account for this new website that we're going to start building. And so the first thing I would do is just go up here in the search bar on the left, and I'm going to go to create, create a new account is down
It's
here. So
also
I
there on
always,
it's on the favorites as well.
oh, it's already in the favorites. What do you, it's
Yeah.
like right in front of me. So
So
I,
yeah, real quick about WHM. There are other providers out there that kind of manage servers, add accounts, add websites. So the cool thing about getting a VPS is, it's not always recommended, but if you have, more than one site, or if you're going to host 5 or 10 websites, it's, just have them all on the same server. But yeah, there's also, similar to WordPress, it can be intimidating with the panel on the back end, and there's so many different features here. We probably just only use, a few of them, like probably just 1 or 2% of all the different features.
Yep. Yeah, so right here in the favorites, create an account. That's what I'm going to do. And so what this is going to do, it's going to ask me what the domain is. I need to create a username and a password here, plug in an email, just put in some basic stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to plug in Elena's info here, or the domain. Notice that it when I copied and pasted it added like the www, and we don't need all that. We just need the actual domain. It automatically tries to give you a username that's matches your domain, and so in this instance I don't think we need all that. So I'm just gonna chop it down and see if we can get by with just using Alana here.
One thing with that, Daniel, let's add like maybe a number after Atlanta, just so the hackers can't guess the.
Sure. All right.
A lot of times too, the default will default to admin, and that's definitely a way that like bots and hackers can kind of get access to websites. Is if they always check admin, or they check domain name, or characters in the domain name. So best to have the username, something that's not related to. Or a variation of the name.
Yeah, so I'm just taking a note. I have a notepad open, which is what I normally do when I'm creating an account like this. Is I'll have a notepad open on my desktop where I'm plugging in the username and the password, just so I have it in my records. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste that in here. Paste it in again. I'm gonna use one of our email addresses here, just to it's got to have an email associated with the account, so that if there's any notifications from the server, they go to that email address. So anyway, just plugging that in. Here we got choose a package, and so this is a little bit more complicated than we need to get into at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and set that to default. And there are a few other settings here. Most of them are hidden. One of the things is the cPanel theme. And so the more you log in, we're going to log into cPanel here in a few minutes, but for some reason, there's a old version of cPanel, like a user interface. That's the default. And so actually on our server should update that and remove that and just go with one of the new themes. So I'm going to go ahead and select Jupyter here as the theme, just because it'll look better when we get into cPanel, and it should be done anyways. A few more options here. One of the things that we have run into issues with before is when setting up an account. If we don't typically like to host email. You can host email in a cPanel account, but it's not super reliable. It's has the you're risking there's a lot of risk to your server when you host email that way, and there's some deliverability issues. And so I just like to assume that for every account, email is going to be handled somewhere else, not on the same server that the website's handled on. And so in that case, we want to select remote mail exchanger here. And over the years, we've run into so many problems where this has not been selected. And we launch a website and somebody fills out a form on the website, and the website thinks that the mail is supposed to be handled
locally
somewhere else, and so it just doesn't happen. So here we're telling it specifically alanaramage.com, like emails are not on this server, it's remote. And so I'm not going to do anything else. That's enough to get us started. I'm going to click create. and it's going to go through a little process. It's going to show me all of the information. And one of really, there's not too much here that's important, but the IP address is really the thing I want to make note of. And notice here that the password is shown again. Username is shown again. The name servers are down here. This is all key information that you'll want to take note of.
So yeah, usually when I'm setting this up, it's been a number of years, but I would usually just copy paste that part there,
yep.
in the new account info.
Yep.
Just that little block.
Totally, that this is the critical stuff right here, and obviously we'll change all this after this demo here, but you know, just for this purpose, that's what it looks like. So now the account is created, right? One of the things that I used to do is after creating an account, I would go back over here and go to list accounts. So I would search for list accounts. I would click here and I would find the new account. But now they added this little button over here on the right, which I can go directly into cPanel. I don't have to like go search for the thing I just created. So, so yeah, I'm going to click on that and we're going to see what cPanel looks like. And so right now, this is cPanel, control panel. If you've ever logged into a website on like GoDaddy or HostGator, I mean, any of these web host companies, they all have their own version of cPanel. And they really control like what shows there, what your options are, and what the settings can be set to. And here, because we have total control over that here, which is nice. So we can make adjustments where we need to. Yeah, so right now we're looking at cPanel. One of the things I wanted to do before we get too far along in this is, number one, Matt, do you think that for this particular domain, since we're going to be building it over time, do you think we should build in a subdomain rather than on the main domain, or do you think we should build like directly on the main domain name?
Yeah, good question. I guess on the main domain name is fine as long as we can put up kind of. I know with WordPress we can put up kind of a, you know, coming soon page. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I was going to say if we were gonna do a subdomain, there's a slightly little different process we need to do, but just to show a reminder here, this is the domain at the moment. So right now, the domain is registered at Namecheap. When you go to that domain name, you know, we're seeing, this is what we're seeing, a really generic, we see some ads here. However, if we were, just as an example, if we were to, you know, just put a bunch of gibberish in there, this is, so when a domain name is not registered at all, this is kind of the thing that you see. The browser is going to show you some kind of an error message. Here we see the domain name is registered, but there's nothing's being done. It's just kind of parked at the domain registrar. And so what we want to do actually is go over to Namecheap, which we're logged into here, or which I'm logged into here. And what I want to do is I want to create an A record pointing to our IP address that we just took note of in our cPanel. So this IP address. And so the server here is, once an A record for the domain is pointed at this IP address, the server will route traffic to the domain, to that IP address, and to the website, the files that are in the folder there. And so that's what we want to do. So really the first step is going to be to create an A record or update the A record at Namecheap. And so I'm in here right now. I'm looking at the domain. I want to go to somewhere there should be a DNS button, right? Advanced DNS. And then so when I'm in Advanced DNS, I need to add an A record. Let's see if I can see.
Yeah, so that little red button right there in the middle. See the red catches your eyes. Add it there.
Yeah. I was trying to see what all existing is here. So right now, so this is just a brand new domain. There's a text record, there's a CNAME, and there's a URL redirect record that just came default, right, in Namecheap. and we're going to add an A record, and we want it to be at, so this is basically at the domain. And then we want to just plug in the IP address, and we want our time to live to be as short as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up and click Save Changes.
Oh, so as soon as you did that, it got rid of the temp stuff.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? So that's Namecheap has some stuff up there by default, right? But as soon as you go to add a real record there, like you're going to use the domain, they change it. So I am interested to see what happens back here. Like at this point, what we're looking at is a Namecheap property. But as soon as that DNS record updates and I refresh, and I don't know if it's updated yet, but let's see. Yeah. So that indicates to me that the domain has, it's what we're looking at here. This error page is on our server. It's no longer at Namecheap. So that's good. Something changed, so that's good.
Yep. Oh wait, go back to Namecheap. So let's add the WW in.
All right. We want to add a record for the www.
Yeah. Or yep. Or is it CNAME? We want to
add. We could do either one.
Let's do a CNAME.
Okay.
And then there, I think we could just put the domain, right?
Yeah. Let me paste that in. Yeah, lost it. There we are. Oops. Yeah, here. Is that really what we do? It's been a while since I've added CNAME, so I'm not.
I know. Hit the check. Let's see. It's funny because all the different providers have different ways that they handle things. So we'll see. We'll test it out.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna update the time to live.
I think that's right because it added the period to the end. You didn't add the period, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
All right. We'll see what happens there. But basically, this should be, when somebody types in www, we still want it to go because it's a www is a subdomain, and we want it to point to the main domain. Okay, cool. So back here in cPanel, there's a few things that we've got to do. So number one, well, you know what? Number one, let's get the SSL going, because when we start to set up WordPress, it'd be great if the SSL was already ready. And so typically I do that in WHM, but I think you can also do that through cPanel. So if I go to in cPanel, there's a security box, and I can go, I believe, to this SSL TLS status. Let me just check here. Okay. So here we can automatically set up an SSL for the domain, but the kind of requirement is that the DNS this record has to be there in order for the SSL to generate. So we can see here right now, I'm seeing that it's all errors across the board, right? All these automatic subdomains that it's checking are, none of them are working. And so I'm going to go ahead and run it again. And it should update, and hopefully it will generate the SSLs. If we don't do it manually right here, it's going to automatically check at like midnight or something. Like once a day at midnight, it checks the domains on the server, see if there are any changes. If there are, it regenerates the SSLs. In this case, this is a brand new setup. And so it's got to kind of verify the domain and the DNS again. So this process is happening. It's running. It usually doesn't take very long at all. And really what I want to see here is I want to see a green icon, not a red icon, next to the main domain name. And so yeah, let's see. Maybe I can refresh the page. What's that?
Quick question, Daniel. So I see that there's like mail, cPanel. Like we obviously don't have those in the subdomain or in the DNS, so those will probably still ring an error, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're not we don't have those subdomains set. Oh yeah, awesome. So we see here the green icons next to the main domain and the www are exactly what we want to see. These subdomains aren't set up here at the domain level, so they're not going to be valid back over here. These are like cPanel defaults that get set up. So yeah, this is good. This is, we've got our SSL running, and so what will happen here is that the SSL will, well, it's still showing not secure, but it will eventually show secure once we get going a little bit further. All right, so we set up a cPanel account. We set up the SSL. The next thing, I mean, we can go a bunch of different ways here, but the next thing I'd like to do is to set up a database. For WordPress is database driven, and so we need to have a database for WordPress to store the content and the data in, so that it can display it, to people visiting the website. And so it's actually pretty super easy. Down here in cPanel, there are a number of items in the database panel. What we want is the MySQL databases. So I'm going to click that. And so the first thing we need to do is to create a new database. I'm just going to call it WP DB for WordPress database. Doesn't have to be anything long. I'm just going to click that and click create database. And so super simple. It created the database. It gave it a name. So I'm just going to copy that again to my little WordPad, because this is the database name. And then I'm going to go back. So now that we have a database, we also need a database user. So some server user that has access to the database that we just created. And so I'm going to go down to MySQL users. I'm going to say DB user, and I'm going to give it a password and another one. Okay. So as soon as I click create here, it's going to create a user for this database. And again, I'm going to just copy the full database username and paste it in my little handy notepad for later use. And so, okay, we're almost done with the database part. All we have to do now is add that particular database user to the database that we just created with all the permissions. And so down here at the very bottom, there's add user to database. And you could potentially have multiple database users depending on your setup. But in this case, we're just dealing with a single database user and a single database. And so I'm going to add the user to the database. And then it comes up with a privileges checkbox, and we just check them all. We want this user to have full access to the entire database that we just created. And so I'm going to check the box for everything and click make changes. And then we're done. So all the database stuff that we had to do is completely taken care of at this point. I saved all of the information because we're going to need it here in just a minute. Done with the database part. Now we can actually get into files. And Matt, feel free to stop me too if I'm going too fast or if anything's not clear.
No, it all makes sense. I guess I feel like when you said database, I was like, oh gosh, like
yeah.
My I feel like in the past when I've set up WordPress, and it's been a long time, but I thought like when you kind of went to hit WordPress, it would kind of automatically do that for you. Does it not do that anymore? Or
I've always set them up manually. I think there is a way, maybe, but I'm not 100% certain. So I always set it up the way that I just showed.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's create database user, add the user to the database with all the permissions. So those are like the 3 steps there.
Right.
And so now what we're going to do is most people have heard of like FTP, which is file transfer protocol. And what that is a way to transfer files from one place to another. And so what we need to do now is we need to get the WordPress files onto the server that we just created. I can use an FTP client to do that, but cPanel has a pretty nice interface here, and I'm just going to use that so we can stay in kind of one place. So here under Files in cPanel, I can go to File Manager. And so now we're looking at kind of the folder structure for this file. And so actually back over here, when I'm looking at the domain, what I'm looking at are the public files in, here we go, right here. Yeah, so see these 2 folders here are the folder and the file are what we see right here. So we're on a Lanolin image right now, we're seeing basically the contents of the FTP, of what we're seeing in FTP. But, this is obviously not what we want to see here. We want to get WordPress loaded in. And so the way that I do that, I go to WordPress, WordPress.org, by the way, not .com. WordPress.com is for if you want to have cloud hosting and set up WordPress in the cloud and pay for that kind of monthly subscription. WordPress.org is if you want to download WordPress and host it yourself. And so that's what we're doing here. I'm going to click Get WordPress. I'm going to download it. It's not going to take too long. It's already done. So now I've got the zip file, and I can upload it to my computer here. So let's see, download WordPress. So you can see it's 24 megabytes roughly is the file. And this is the latest version of WordPress, probably not too old. They're always putting out updates. So the file's uploaded. I'm going to go back and we should see the zip file here. And so what we need to do is to decompress the zip file. But before I do that, one thing I do want to do is I want to click on the settings over here and make sure that show hidden files is selected. So there are a few files that are kind of critical to WordPress that you can't see unless this is checked. So I'm just going to go ahead and check it and save it just so we see. Yeah, so here you notice we now see the htaccess file, which is important for a number of different reasons, but we don't have to go over that today. So what we want to do is decompress our zip file that we just downloaded from WordPress and then uploaded to our server. So I'm going to select it, and then over here there's an extract button, and I'm just going to click extract, and I want it to go into the directory here. It's going to take just a couple minutes. Looks like it's already done.
Yeah, that was fast.
But one of the things that one of the issues is that it puts it in a folder, and I don't really want it in a folder. I want these in the main directory back here. I want them in the public HTML folder, not the WordPress folder. So what I do is go back to select all. So click select all up there, and then I go to move and just eliminate that WordPress folder and click move files. And now if we go up a level, we see that all those files are in the root directory now, and we can delete that WordPress folder, and we can delete the zip file that we updated, because now we have everything that we need here. The one thing that we do want to do, like critical step, is one of these files is called wp config. Oh yeah, here we go. So WordPress gives you a sample wp config file, and so this file has like all the details, like the database name, the password, the user It has all that stuff for in order for WordPress to work, and it gives you a default. I'm going to go ahead and rename it and take the sample out because as soon as we go to WordPress to set up the site, it's going to be looking for that WP config file. And if you haven't done this, it's going to make you put all the stuff in through WordPress. And I don't like to do that. So anyway, WP config now. And so here we can just go to edit, and that's going to open up the file in our editor through cPanel. And so here, this is like probably the first code that we've seen, right, in this little session we're doing.
Yep.
And so this is a PHP file that's core to WordPress, and it's got a lot of little helpful tips in here, right? And so what I want to do is take that database information that I copied before, and I want to paste it in where it's giving me a prompt to do that. So database name is that, database user is that, and our password is that. So right here, we don't need to do anything with the next 3 items. The thing that we do want to do is we want to put our own salt keys in. And so this is, they give you a little URL here to go to WordPress, and I'm going to do that. And what this is going to do is generate a random string, right? A series of random strings. And so this is for security, like login security for WordPress. And it helps basically when I create an account. If I make my password, something in English, some word in English, like this is my password, the salt that I just pasted in here is unique to this particular WordPress setup, and it's going to take my English password, this is my password, and it's going to use this to encrypt it and store it so that it can kind of be a unique, so it can't be hacked as easily. Let's put it that way. So I just pasted this, thing in, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it comes in handy. And again, after this, we'll come back and update it when we're ready. But for right now, you could just leave this, and I'm going to click Save Changes, which is in the top right, and it's going to overwrite kind of everything here. So we've got our database name, our database user, our database password, and our kind of unique salt. We're good to go. I can.
Something?
I'm not sure if it probably does.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what it
Yeah,
does.
okay.
It's one of those crypto terms or whatever. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to close this WordPress window. I can't actually even close. We can close the domain, but whatever. Okay. So I'm back over here on our website, right? We haven't refreshed it in a while since we uploaded WordPress to the site and changed that config file. But now that that's done, I'm going to click refresh, and we should see something different here, right? So this is like the WordPress setup window. And so in this case, we want it to be English. We want to plug a site title in. So I'm just going to call it Atlanta. We're going to give it a, this is for the admin user. And so by default, or just typically, what you see somebody use for a username here is admin, which is not very secure at all. And so, yeah, we need to think of a better username than admin. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, let's call it. I'm drawing a blank right now. Let's call it driving 33.
For the user?
Yeah, why not? I don't know.
Driving 33. Okay. This is going to be our user, and again, I'm copying these and pasting these because I want to store them somewhere for later. The other thing, so it gives you an automatic password here. One of the things that I like to do is remove any character that might be confusing. So for instance, 0, is this a 0 or an O? I don't
Right.
know. So I'd like to replace that with maybe a U, because I know what a U is either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if there are any characters that I'm not sure about, I just replace them with something else um, that's not ambiguous. So I feel like this particular password here that we've got is something that I don't, well, maybe the Q, the under Q, I'm going to replace that with an H. And anyway, that's just what I do, because I hate when I'm not sure if it's an L or a 1 or an I, capital I. Like, there are certain characters that are, could be other things. Um, all right, so I'm going to put our one of our developer email addresses in here, and it's almost ready to go. Since we're working on this website, I don't want search engines to like know about it just quite yet. So I'm going to check the box to discourage search engines from seeing this, and then I'm going to click install WordPress, and it's already done. It's already installed WordPress, right? So I'm going to go ahead and log in with our credentials that we just made.
Oh, quick question, Daniel, with username.
Yeah,
I've seen it before, but you can actually have a space as your username, right?
you can have a space in it. Yeah,
Okay.
It can be like first name space last name, or anything really. I think a space is allowed. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and log in, and that's going to take us to the WordPress dashboard. One of the things I mean, there are a number of things I'd like to do here before we wrap up, just to kind of get this in the shape that I would like to start out in for like actually building a site. So number one, I want to go to settings, general. And because we've already set up the SSL, I want to change this to HTTPS right away. And also, I want to change the time zone to be anything but that. So I think, is LA -9 or -8? I think it's 8, right?
I think. I'm
Yeah,
not
I think
sure.
it's -8. So I'm just going to make those few little changes. Mainly, I want to HTTPS here. When I save it, it's going to make me log back in, but I'm going to go ahead and save it. Notice the change here. We see a lock, and we see the browser saying that the connection is secure. So this is the first time that we've seen that, right? When looking at this site. So that's an important thing, but it's doing that because now we've told it we want you to serve this entire site using HTTPS, not HTTP. So, all right, going back, putting the username and password back in there. Let's get back into WordPress and
Oh, Daniel, real quick, can you show us the front end right now? Like,
yeah. So this will just be we'll take a look here. This is basically the default WordPress theme right at the moment. With it has the site name in here, but everything else is just generic. So this is kind of like with WordPress, this is where you start at by default. I'm going to go ahead and close some of these other tabs here, so we've not. I don't need them all open anymore. So now I just have the cPanel open. We've got our front end open here, where we can look at the homepage, and I've got my backend. So some of the things I'm going to do immediately are go to the themes. And so we can see here, this is the active theme. I'm going to add another one. And we're going to call it, we're going to look for hello. Yeah, which is down here. So this is a blank theme that's meant for Elementor, which is what we're going to be installing on this WordPress instance. And so this is quick. It's scaled down. It doesn't have. I mean, these WordPress themes are already pretty bare bones, or at least the default ones. But this one is generally considered one of the better ones to use for Elementor as a starting point, just because it's kind of stripped down. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that. And if we go back to our homepage, it's going to change a little bit. let's see what it looks like now. Yeah, so definitely it's more simple, right? It's we lost several of the little things that we had. You can start to get a sense this is a more simplified theme.
Yep.
But we're
Can you
gonna
click on Hello World? Is Hello World click?
yeah. So this is
Yep.
a post. So this will be a standard post. Yeah. So this is like the out of the box blog. All right, so we've installed our theme. The next thing that we want to do is we want to actually install Elementor. And so here we go. It says it notices that we've installed the hello theme. And so do you want to install Elementor? It's like, intelligent like that. And I do want to install. So I'm going to go ahead and install. I'm going to click activate. All right. So we are going to go ahead and connect this to Elementor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because there's a little process. There was a pop-up window that you didn't see there, but it was basically just confirming that we do want to connect it. So did that. We don't want to deal with like logos or designs or anything at this point. So we're just going to skip. We're going to skip all those next steps there. We just want to get back into the website. So that little process of adding Elementor got us, so it connected the plugin, and then it's bringing us to what appears to be maybe the home page in Elementor, but I'm just going to exit out of that. I'm not, this is like maybe a new process for them. Trying to get out. All right, let me see if I can get out of here. There we go. Okay. Oof. All right, so we can see that there are 3 pages already set up just by default. So we have a privacy policy, which is like a kind of a newer thing for WordPress, is to automatically create a privacy policy draft. And anyway, I'm not interested in pages just yet at the moment. What I want to do is install some essential plugins. So I'm going to go to Elementor Pro, which I've already got. So we've already got Elementor Pro. I'm going to go ahead and update some of these real quick, or this one. I'm going to add new, and because we're a agency that has we have a Elementor license, multi-site license, I'm going to go ahead and add that Elementor Pro plugin. It's something that
So this is different than the other Elementor plugin?
Yeah, so there's Elementor, which is free. And then Pro gives you a number of other features that aren't included in the free version. And so that gives you more flexibility when building websites in it. So and a lot of more block variation, since Elementor is all about creating and reusing blocks on pages for websites. So I'm going to go ahead and install this plugin. Ooh, and so we ran into our first like server issue here. So the uploaded file exceeds the upload max file size directive in PHP INI. All right, so what we need to do is go over to back to cPanel, and we need to change that setting. So again, having control panel access, we do get, if you know where to look, it's under software and multi PHP INI editor. So I'm going to click on that and open it. And then we're going to see here, once I select the domain, we're going to see that there are a number of settings that we can tweak. And so I'm going to go ahead and just update this to, I don't know, 32 megabytes. I think there are a number of things I like to change. I'm just going to, whoops. I like to make these pretty big. Let's see.
Yeah, those are big.
Okay, I'm just going to change that. I'm going to apply it. All right, looks like it saved the settings. Let's see if we can go back and upload that file now, or upload that plugin. It wasn't that big of a plugin, so looks like it is 3.5 megabytes.
Okay, yeah, not that big.
Yeah, so I think so the 2 megabytes was the default file size. Whoops, it's yeah, I guess it's not. I'm gonna have to refresh this page. Whoops. There we go. All right,
There we
so
go.
see, yeah, so now we're not getting the error message anymore, right? And that's because we changed this from 2 megabytes to 32. So now I could upload like a 20 megabyte video or whatever, if I had to. Just have a little wiggle room there. And I'm going to activate the plugin. All right, and so we're not going to see the benefits of that at the moment, but once we start like actually building, we'll see what pieces are a result of that. So there's a few little things that I want to change just out of the box, and that's when I add a few plugins. So one of the things I cannot stand is the Gutenberg.
Oh, I saw the bad reviews right there.
What was it?
Like if you go back to the screen, there Gutenberg had pretty bad reviews.
Yeah, so I always forget how to spell it, but the thing I do is disable Gutenberg. Let's see.
So
Did I
Gutenberg
spell it
is
right?
kind of it's the latest WordPress page
Yeah, so
builder.
it's their answer to like a drag and drop builder, and I can't stand it like in the least. So the very first thing I almost always do is disable Gutenberg plugin, because that takes me back to here. I'll show you real quick. And I mean, it might not bug people who are not used to it, but I'm going to go to a page, for instance. If we go to the sample page, and if I go to edit, this is my editor here. So this is like kind of like Microsoft Word-ish. And I didn't start using WordPress when it looked like this, and it bothers me.
Yeah. I guess for
So
somebody brand new, maybe it's like, oh, this is cool,
maybe
but
they might like it. I don't like it. So I
yeah.
disable that. So when I activated the plugin, right, disable Gutenberg, now when I go back here and edit the sample page, now this is what I'm used to. Right here. So I'm actually going to connect to Elementor Pro because I guess that didn't happen before. Activate. All right. So anyway, back to that page, just looking at that page, we can see this is the editor that I'm used to seeing. I can type in text or code, or I can look at the visual editor. But this is the interface that I'm used to, and the Gutenberg thing I just can't really stand. So I disable it. Two more plugins that I almost always install right away are WordFence, which is kind of like a security plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and look for WordFence and install. And so this is just going to help protect the site. It's going to like email me if people are trying to log in. Oh, and I forgot they now have like a license requirement. I'm not going to walk through that process now, but basically you just sign up for a free account with WordFence and then link that. And it's an extra step that they added recently. They require you to like provide an email address in order to use their software. And that's pretty new for them. I mean, they've been around for a long time and they just started that requirement recently. The last thing that I'm going to install is one of the things that when you upload a logo or any kind of graphics, sometimes they're SVGs. Typically with WordPress, one of the first things I upload is a logo. And I like to use SVGs for the file for a logo because it's much crisper than a PNG file and much smaller than a JPEG. But out of the box, you can't upload a SVG to WordPress. So you have to add a little tweak to do that. Let's see, it's called safe SVG. Get it installed, and so when we do start finally like building the site, we'll be able to add an SVG logo and that kind of thing. So anyway, those are the key things that we do, or that I do, when starting a site. And so we can go back here. This probably has not changed at all. It's still just the basic thing. Do we want to throw up a blank page
Yeah,
as the home page?
or coming soon.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and do that. So if I go to add a new page, we'll say coming soon. We're gonna make it a, I think Canvas is, we don't have any like template parts yet that we built out. So I'm gonna go ahead and save it as Elementor Canvas, edit in Elementor, and we'll write coming soon in a block, right? So we're going to just put a big heading in here, says coming soon, and we can make it an H1. We can make this fit to screen, and we can, we should center the text, right? And I don't know, what color should we make this?
Purple.
Purple. Okay, so let's go like Barney purple.
Yeah,
that's more like fuchsia though, right?
Yeah, fuchsia's good. Yeah, I think Alana likes that.
Okay, so we'll make it purple. We've got to make it big too, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say for the moment we'll make it an even 100 and coming soon, and we're going to save it. And then the next thing we want to do is go over to appearance and customize. And we want to tell WordPress to use that page for the homepage. So if I go to homepage settings, we want to use a static page, and we want to say coming soon. And then we're going to publish. And now when we refresh the page here, hopefully we've got coming soon, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's getting the cPanel account set up, attaching the domain, getting the SSL going, getting WordPress installed.
The DNS.
Yeah. So I feel like we covered a lot of bases. But at this point, like, we can easily start designing and building a website here. And it took a while because we were explaining things as we went along. But yeah, I would say, to get to this point without trying to explain it while you're doing it, it's, probably less than a half an hour for sure.
Mm-hmm.
To go through all those little steps. So not terribly long to get up and going and get a basic, real simple bare bones landing page up from nowhere.
Awesome. All right, I think we got one viewer on right now too, and it might be Alana.
All right.
Yeah, I guess with this live feature, we can't, or I guess we'd have to have another. I can't. We're not able to see who's on. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned. Our next episode, we will start building out the framework for Alana's website.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for
watching,
joining.
everyone.